So the first chapter goes like this: Ashrei Ya'ish. Fortunate is the man, asher loy halach, that doesn't go ba'atzas rishayim, with the counsel of rishayim, which are evildoers or wicked people. Depends how serious you want to translate that. Uvederech chatayim layamad, and in the way, in the like, walking. There's halach, going. Bederech is on the way. Chatayim are sinners. Layamad, you don't stand. Ubemaishav leitzim, and in a place where leitzim, where scoffers sit, lo yoshav, he doesn't sit. So again, fortunate is the man that doesn't hang around with evil people, with sinners, and with scoffers. Pasuk number 2 comes and says, what does he do? Ki'im b'teiras Hashem cheftzoi, that what is he doing? His desire, cheftzoi, his desire is to be with Hashem's Torah. And within his Torah, he sits and he gets involved, and we'll translate the Yege soon, but he gets involved in this study, Yaimam Valayla, day and night. And this person will be like an eitz, like a tree, shasul al palgemayim, transplanted or planted. The tree finds itself al palgemayim, next to a stream of water. Asher piryai yitain beitai, that when you have a tree that is watered like that, because it doesn't need to be watered literally because it's next to a stream of water, so piryai, its fruit come in the right time. Ve'aleyu lo yibal, and its leaves don't fall off, don't wilt. V'chol asher yaseh yatzliach, and everything that he does, everything that he will do, yatzliach, he will be successful. This is the person that follows that way. Loichein, pasuk number 4, loichein harishayim, not so for the evildoers, for the wicked. Ki im kamoitz asher tidfenu ruach, they are like chaff, which we'll translate a little bit more when we go through it in more detail, that gets blown away by the wind. And pasuk number 5, al kain, therefore, la yakumu rishayim b'mishpat, the rishayim, the evildoers, won't have what to stand on when it comes to mishpat, when it comes to their day of judgment. The chatoim and sinners, ba'adas tzadikim, and sinners won't have place between the tzadikim, the righteous one. Why? Ki yedeya Hashem, because Hashem knows derech tzadikim, the ways of the righteous, v'derech rishayim tayved, and the ways of the evil, tayved, disappears, it perishes, it disappears. That is the first overview of the first chapter. We're going to go now level by level with different commentaries through the chapter again. And if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in. So, first of all, Ashrei. We'll start again. Pasuk number 1, Ashrei. What did we translate as Ashrei? Ashrei is fortunate. Many of the commentaries come over here and they say, Ashrei. Ashrei is about a person that is content, a person that is happy. How are you going to find that person that is going to be content? Where are you going to find that person that's going to be happy? Ashrei, the happy person, the content person, is the person, is the ish, is the person, asher loy halach b'atzas rishayim, that doesn't go with the counsel of wicked. So that's the first thing that I wanted to mention about Ashrei. Ashrei is praising the person that says that this is the process, this is the way that I want to go, this is the approach that I want to take, and I'm happy with it. We're not talking about successful people. Success is a different story. Content and happy and success are two different things. A person could have tremendous success and still not be happy, and a person could be very, very happy, not necessarily because of any successes. Just that's the way the person looks at things. So again, the Ashrei, the commentaries explain, is talking about a happy person, a happy approach, a content approach, a satisfied approach, a person that is happy and satisfied. That's the first thing. And connected to that, I also wanted to mention that there is a medrash. There's a medrash in Bereshis Rabbah that says that there's a very tight connection between the beginning of Tehillim and the end of the Chumash. There's at the end of Chumash, in V'zayis HaBracha, in the last parsha in the Torah, Perek Lamed Gimel, chapter 33, Pasuk Chavtes, verse 29, So the pasuk over there talks about Ashrecha Yisrael, praised are the Jewish people. And the Medrash comes and says that there's a deep connection between Moshe Rabbeinu, and David HaMelech, because Moshe Rabbeinu finishes off the Torah, Tairas Moshe, it finishes off with Ashrei, with Ashrecha. And here the pasuk, first pasuk in Tehillim, starts with Ashrei. So there's a connection. The Medrash says that there is a connection between the two, Moshe Rabbeinu and David HaMelech. Interestingly enough, the Medrash goes on and says that this chapter also finishes with Ashrei, but that's something we're going to discuss next week, because according to many, chapter 1, Kapitel Aleph and Kapitel Beis are really supposed to be one kapitel, one chapter. And if you look, the end of chapter 2 says Ashrei Kol Chaisei Bai, ends off with the word Ashrei. So that we're going to discuss next week. That I'm reserving for next week. The discussion of if are they one or are they two, and why would they be one or why would they be two. But the connection between David HaMelech and Moshe Rabbeinu is something very, very unique. And it says Mimakoim shepasak Moshe, at the place where Moshe stopped, meaning the end of the Torah where it says Ashrecha Yisrael, Ashrei, there, Hischil David started from there. He starts Ashrei Aish, he starts with the words Ashrei. And this idea is brought down in Hasidic philosophy that it talks about that Moshe Goyal Rishain, Moshe is the first redeemer of the Jewish people. David is Goyal Achrein. David is the final redeemer because Mashiach comes from David, but David also is the one who ultimately was able to accomplish that Beis Hamikdash should be built. So there's a direct connection between Moshe Rabbeinu being a redeemer and David HaMelech being a redeemer. But Hasidic philosophy wants to take it a step further and says that not only that, we have the power to continue it. We have the power to take that Moshe Rabbeinu talks about at the end of the Torah, David HaMelech talks about at the beginning of Tehillim, and we continue it even further. What's the continuation that we do? So we said already, what is Ashrei? Ashrei is the happy guy. Ashrei is the content person. When we learn Torah and we do mitzvahs out of excitement, out of happiness, out of tainug, with pleasure, with excitement, with simcha, then we are continuing what Moshe Rabbeinu finished at the end of the Torah and what David HaMelech starts off with the beginning of Tehillim. So that's the first comment I wanted to make with Ashrei, that Ashrei talking about happiness, Ashrei talking about the guy that is content, not to be mixed up with the successful person. That's not what this Kapitel Tehillim is talking about. This Kapitel Tehillim is someone that's happy to go in the path of the righteous. Righteous doesn't mean necessarily even a tzaddik, even though we use the word tzaddik over here, but tzaddik, it's the translation righteous is better than what we use as tzaddik. Tzaddik means, you call your little child a tzaddikol, or you see a learned person and you call him a tzaddik. Righteous means a person that does the right thing. That's what's righteous. That's what the essence of a tzaddik is. The essence of a tzaddik is righteous, doing the right thing. That is the idea of it, and that is being and not only. So here the pasuk is coming and saying not only to be righteous, to do the right thing, but to do it with happiness, to do it and be content with it. So that is Ashrei Yoish. The pasuk continues, Asher lo yhalach, Amad, and Yashav. There's 3 steps in the rest of verse number 1 in pasuk Aleph. The first step is that he didn't go lo yhalach with the advice of evildoers. The second step is he did it bederech, on the way of sinners, he did not stand. What does that mean? Just a little translation. It means when you're walking on the way, don't pause in a bad place. Okay, we'll get more into that. And then the third thing is u'b'maishav leitzim lo yashav, and in a group of scoffers, he didn't sit. So there's going somewhere, there's passing through and stopping somewhere, and there's about sitting down. These are 3 steps over here, and there's a progression here on multiple levels. There's a progression of going, stopping, and sitting, right? There's a progression like that. There's a progression of Rishayim, evildoers, Chatayim, sinners, and Leitzim, scoffers, lazy people. By the way, Leitzim is scoffers is like the fancy English word that we use, but it is the idea is about people that just sit around and lazy around. There's commentaries that say the Rasha is someone that sins on purpose. Someone that says, I'm gonna do this. I don't care if it's wrong. I'm gonna do this anyway. The sinner is someone does by mistake. It happens all the time, right? That you did something, I should have done it differently. It's a sin. But it wasn't on purpose. It wasn't that I went ahead and I said, I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm gonna do this anyway. So it's also another level. And the person that's lazing around is not sinning per se. Just sitting around, the scoffer is not sinning per se. Maybe saying a little bit of lashon hara, but not an active sin. So that is also another progression. So there's a machlaikis in the Rishonim. There's an argument in the commentaries if this is a progression or is it going up? Meaning, is the Rasha on the lower level and it's the Leitzim, the scoffers are the worst, or is it the other way? Is it the worst is the evildoers, right? And the best out of the three is the scoffers. So the Rishonim have this conversation, this discussion. The Radak, if I remember correctly, it brings it up specifically, and they discuss this. Which way is it? Which way should we look at it? So the Pashut Pshat is, the simple explanation is, obviously a Rasha, an evildoer, is much worse than a scoffer. Someone that goes and says, chas v'shalom, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do this anyway. That person is a Rasha. That's worse than someone that's sitting around. He's just lazing around. He's sitting and watching Netflix a whole day, or sitting out on his balcony a whole day, just watching the people walking by, and etc. Right? So that l'chora should be worse. The Mittler Rebbe, Chassidic philosophy, the Mittler Rebbe in his Derech Chaim says that, now, the scoffer is the worst kind of person. Why is the scoffer the worst kind of person? Because a Rasha, an evil person, even a sinner, they hold by something. They have a what do you call it? They have a certain set of rules that they follow. Okay, it might not be God's set of rules, but they have their set of rules. They have their way of approaching things, and that's the way they do things. They don't just sit around and do nothing. The guy who sits around and does nothing, that's the worst, because that guy, you could never have him do tshuva. Someone that is active, okay, he's active this way. Maybe you could harness him to be active in a little bit a better way. But someone that's not active at all, to try to get that person to be active, that is the worst. As the Mittler Rebbe says, Leitzim en lo tikva, he doesn't have any hope to do tshuva because he doesn't want any yoke. Doesn't want anybody telling him what to do. Not his boss, not God, not his wife, not her husband. Doesn't want anybody telling him what to do. That's the worst kind. Someone that does, but does in their own way, with the right influence and with the right approach, would hopefully to be able to do tshuva. So that's the way the Mittler Rebbe explains that this is really just like the progression of going, stopping on the way, and sitting is also a progression. This is also this is similarly a progression from better to worse, or
Rabbi,
worse to worse. Yes.
Why? If Leitzim is just a lazy bum watching Netflix, maybe he's not motivated. Maybe he doesn't have a good rabbi. I mean, maybe he's not so bad. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he needs someone to put him on the right path.
It's a good question. So, but the truth is, someone that's not motivated at all for nothing, that's a hard person to motivate. If someone is motivated, but not necessarily motivated to go to shul, or not necessarily motivated to go to a Torah class, but is motivated in life in general, so you could take that motivation and channel it into good places. Someone that's not motivated at all, you could ask the psychologists and the social workers amongst us, someone that has zero motivation, that person is in a lot worse place. We're not saying that person can't be motivated, but they're in a worse place in a certain respect, they're in a worse place than the Russia, because the Russia, at least he's up and he's about and he's doing. So we have to channel it. But the person who's not even motivated to do, it's much harder to get him motivated to do something than it is to channel the Russia that is already doing, but he should do good things. He should do tshuva and he should do positive things. That's the point. That's the idea that we'd like to bring across.
I would like to interject that I disagree with your interpretation of the word scoffer as somebody who does nothing. Because a scoffer is actually worse than somebody who does nothing, because a scoffer is somebody who's always skeptical and critical, and therefore is trying to influence others.
Very valid point. You're right. You're right.
Okay,
The scoffer is even worse than just sitting doing nothing. He's also trying to cool off everybody else that is doing something.
Okay, but I would also disagree with your definition about what sitting around and doing nothing is. Okay, because sitting on your balcony and watching the people go by, not for 24 hours a day, but for a half an hour, maybe catching a little drimmel in the middle while they're walking by, that could be one of the great pleasures in life, and I don't consider it to be a negative. So,
Alan, I'm not going to answer it. I'm just going to say that at a certain age, you earn it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that is pasuk number 1. Ashrei Ya'ish, the person that's content. Praiseworthy is the guy who is happy, content in his service of God, and that he doesn't follow along he doesn't go and ask advice by Rishayim, and he doesn't go in the ways of sinners, and he doesn't sit with scoffers, meaning that he's productive. He keeps a productive life. That's the first pasuk. But all this, you have to keep in mind, this whole first pasuk, okay, we spent 20 minutes on this pasuk, but the whole pasuk is all talking about something that we call in Judaism sur meira, staying away from bad, staying away from negativity, which is a very important thing. We should absolutely stay away from bad. We should absolutely stay away from negativity, but that's not enough. We need to also do good. It's not enough just to say, I'm content and I'm going to stay away from negative and bad influences, and I'm good. No, there's also the positive that you have to do. There has to be also the asay tov. There also has to be the doing of positive, the doing of good. So that is the next step that we have here in the Tehillim, and that's the first word in pasuk beis. The first word says ki. Keep in mind that it's not just the first verse, rather you have to do something else. What should it be? The pasuk number 1 is what you should stay away from. Pasuk number 2 is what you should be doing. Ki im b'teiras Hashem cheftzei. You should want. What should your desire be? Your desire should be in Hashem's Torah. U'b'teirasai, and in His Torah, yege. You should be thoughtful. Yege is really, I would say in Yiddish, we have the word steig. I think yege might be the word steig. Steig means diligence. Yege, yoimam v'layla. You should be diligent in his Torah study day and night. Now, before we even go into the pasuk, it obviously doesn't mean that a person should leave his house, leave his family, leave his job, and just sit and study Torah a whole day. Obviously, that's not what this pasuk means. The pasuk means that your life focus should be a godly focus. Your life focus should be about spiritual things, about study of Torah and about Hashem and doing it. And once you study Torah, you know the mitzvahs that you're able to do. But even if you study Torah properly, if Torah is the thing that you think about, so then even in business, even when you're busy at work, even when you're busy doing other things, what are you doing? You're doing it l'shem shamayim. You're doing it for the sake of heaven. You do it on a different level. You do it in a different way. You do it with a different approach. And that's the idea of yege, that it should be mindful the whole time. It doesn't mean that you're sitting and learning Torah the whole time, because that's practically impossible. There's very few that are able to do that. And maybe lucky them, maybe not so lucky them. But those few are unique. The regular person, yege, should be thoughtful. It should be mindful of Torah study. And when he has an opportunity to come to a class or to learn Torah on his own, that's a beautiful thing, and he should be doing that. And that's the first step of the Mishnah. Again, also, it's not only about Torah study. We learn Torah in order to know what to do. When we study Torah, we know how to do a mitzvah. If we don't study Torah, we don't know how to light Shabbos candles. We don't know how to put on tefillin. We don't know how to do certain mitzvahs that are mentioned in Torah. So one of the approaches of study of Torah is also in order to know what to do. But let's look at the pasuk again. It says a word twice, and a lot of the commentaries ask, what's going on over here? Ki im be Teiras Hashem cheftzei, that the pasuk says your desire should be in Hashem's Torah. Uve Teirasai, and in His Torah, yagiyem v'leila, you should study, you should think about it, you should be mindful about it. Yaimam v'leila, day and night. Why say the word Torah again? We know that in general, much more in Torah, but even in Nevi'im and Ksuvim, when we have an extra word, there's something that has to be learned from it. Is this word extra? Is it superfluous or is it not superfluous? That's the question of the commentaries. The basic pshat is that Uve Teirasai means in Hashem's Torah, and it is poetic license that King David had, and we'll have that probably a lot throughout Tehillim, where he uses poetry, and therefore sometimes a word will be used this way or that way, or repeated for emphasis or for poetry with poetic license. So that's the simple pshat answer that people give, that commentaries give, that Uve Teirasai, in Hashem's Torah, you should be involved yom and v'layla, day and night. But there's also other commentaries that say differently. Uve Teirasai, in His Torah. Whose Torah? So the simple that we just mentioned, His is capital H, talking about Hashem's Torah. Some commentaries come and say, Uve Teirasai, and His Torah, the learner's Torah, the guy who's sitting, the person who is sitting and learning Torah. In His Torah, he should be involved, Yom and V'layla. What does it mean, His Torah? So Rashi right away comes here and says, B'tchila, when you start studying Torah, He nikreis Torah's Hashem, it's called Hashem's Torah. Omisha amal ba, but when you work hard in the study of Torah and you put in the effort in the study of Torah, he nikres Teirasei, all of a sudden it becomes yours. Something that you put effort into, it becomes yours. Now it's no more a redundant word. Why? Because the first time it says that you should be involved with Teiras Hashem, in Hashem's Torah. You should be involved, you should desire. And then the pasuk continues and says, Uv'Teirasai, that in your Torah, when you work hard in the Torah and you make it your own, Teirasai becomes your Torah. Yom v'layla. That's going to be in your mind, Yom v'layla, day and night, because you worked hard on it. You'll be mindful of it day and night. Yaakov mentioned that. What did he say over here? Internalize, right? Yeah, definitely a good word for it. That when you learn Torah, you internalize it, and when you internalize it, you make it your own. It becomes your Torah, and that's according to Hasidic philosophy. That's the idea over here of Uve Teirasai, that the goal is that you should make the Torah your own. That's the goal. Now, what happens? So the Rebbe in a Maimer, the Rebbe in a Hasidic discourse brings this up and says that's a big problem, because it seems from the pasuk that, and according to Rashi, the way Rashi explains this, that when you make Torah your own, it's greater. The first part of the verse is when you don't put in that much effort, you're starting off the study of Torah, so then it's Teiras Hashem. And then when you put in the effort and you internalize it, you make it your own. So then it's like greater, it's better. How could it be better? Torah is such a lofty thing. As soon as you take it down the levels and you bring it down into the physical world, you internalize it into a human being, make it into your own. How could it be better? On the contrary, you're lowering it. Now it's involved in the physical world. No more is it a spiritual concept. So for this, the Rebbe answers, and this is something for those of you who were part of the Monday morning Shavuos class that we did. We talked about this at great length. The idea that Hasidic philosophy says Torah comes from a great place. Torah comes from a great spiritual source. That's where Torah comes from. Hashem's Torah. It's on in a spiritual source. The uniqueness of Torah and the fact that Hashem wants us to study Torah is that Torah could come down here into this world and doesn't change. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up on Mount Sinai, studies Torah for 40 days and 40 nights. The Medrash says every single day Hashem taught him the whole Torah. At night he forgot it. It was too spiritual. It wasn't something he could handle. It wasn't something he could understand. So he forgot it, and that was it. It was gone. Until Hashem accomplished, Hashem who is beyond the limitations of the physical world, spiritual worlds, and Hashem accomplished that the spiritual idea of Torah does not diminish, but could still come into this world, can still be a part of a person, could become a part of a person, and it could become your Torah, and it doesn't diminish. And that's what Chassidic philosophy says. The uftu, the uniqueness, the specialty of Torah is that it comes from such a high place. It doesn't change coming here into the physical world. On the contrary, it keeps that spirituality. And the Rebbe goes on in that Maimer and says, not only that, it even has a higher level because it needs to draw from higher spiritual level in order not to change when it comes here into the physical world. And this is a class for another time. We can go on for hours on this concept, but the idea of uve Torah sai, that you should make it your own Torah, we're not diminishing the level of Torah. This is the same spiritual Torah that Hashem had on high in the spiritual world that he gives us, and he gives us the opportunity that we could learn it and we could make it our own. So that is the second verse of Tehillim of chapter number 1. So we came b'Torah Hashem Chefze. A person should get involved in Hashem's Torah. A person should desire to study Hashem's Torah and to make it his own. B'Torah say, and in your own Torah, Yege Yom V'Layla, a person should be thoughtful, should be mindful day and night. So what happens to such a person? What does that accomplish for that person? So this person is v'haya ke'etz shasol al palgei mayim. This person will be like a tree, shasol, that is planted. We'll get back into the word because it's really, the translation is transplanted. Shasol. It's not the uniqueness of shasol is that it's that it could be transplanted. Natua means planted. Shasol means transplanted. Al palgei mayim, next to a stream of water. So here we have, first of all, what's unique about this? This tree is always satiated. This tree always has enough nourishment. This tree always has enough water. It brings out by the tzaddik, by the righteous person, the guy that does the right thing, right? That's the righteous person. The guy that does the right thing is happy even with a little. He doesn't need a lot. The fact that there's water, this is the way the Radak explains this. The fact that there's water watering my tree trunk, I'm good. I don't need anything else. I don't need specialty things. I'm good. And if you're going to be good like that, if you're going to be happy and content like that, the rest of the pasuk will also apply to you. So v'haya ke'etz shasol, that you're going to be like a tree that's next to water, always satiated, always has enough water. So this is the reward. The commentaries say this is the bracha, this is the reward for someone that follows pasuk number 1, which is sur meirah, staying away from bad things, and asay toiv, doing good things, connecting to Hashem, doing the proper things, being righteous, doing the right thing. So, and I mentioned before that this tree is unique because it uses the word shasol, transplanted, a movable tree. And it also shows on the character of the person, that the person is movable, that the person could go from one place to another place. The person is not saying, I need to be here to study Torah, because if I go somewhere else, I'm going to have trouble studying Torah. Yeah, you can have that sometimes. You can have it that I don't want to move into a city where people are not going to be a good influence on me. They might be a bad influence on me. But ultimately, the level that you want to come to is that the external things don't bother you, and you could go from place to place and still keep your integrity, still keep your righteousness. And that's why one of the commentaries say why he uses the word shasol, transplanted, as opposed to the word planted. So what asher pirya itim b'itay, so first of all, it blooms on time. What does it mean, blooms on time? If there's water, if there's ample feed, water, irrigation for the tree, it will bloom on time. A tree that gets limited irrigation, it might bloom a little bit late. So that's what the pasuk is saying, that it will bloom on time. The commentaries say that tzaddik should also recognize that that his reward will come in its time, in the right time. Just doesn't mean that the right time is now. It will come, but it will come in the right time. Just like the fruits come at its right time, your reward for doing sur meira, staying away from bad, asay toiv, doing good, will also come in the right time. Your reward will come bismanai, in the right time. The pasuk continues that the leaves, they won't dry out and fall away. They won't go away. What's that? That not only are you good for your fruit, you're also good for the people around you. You become a nice shade for the people around you. What's the difference between a tree with many leaves versus a tree with not so many leaves? Is the shade that it gives, the thing that it offers to somebody else, not just its fruit, not just its specialty. A tree can have its specialty, and it can be an apple tree, and that's its specialty. It gives apples, but it can give off a good feeling to people around them, and that's the idea of the righteous, that they give a good feeling. They become shade to the people around them, and they people want to be around them because of the good feeling that they give as well. And everything that they will do, they'll be successful. This, most commentaries say, it means that whatever they do in their in whatever they do for themselves, and the righteousness that they do for themselves, will also go on to the next generation. So that's whatever they do, it will also have a positive effect, not only for themselves, but also for the next generation. We know that trees in general are used as a metaphor for the next generation, and it's used as a blessing, that Elon, this tree, what should I bless you? That the next generation should be similar to you. And the same thing with the righteous. The blessing is, the end of the verse, the blessing is that the next generation should also be as righteous and as good, as pious, etc., the way you are. Yes, Yaakov, you wanted to make a comment. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay. So I just want to understand, I just have my own take on this, if it's possible for me to put it forth.
Go ahead.
Water is often compared, Torah is often compared to water. And if we are the tree that absorbs the Torah, will bring a fruit in its season, to me is a metaphor for giving it over to other individuals, and whose leaves never wilt. We'll always be strong in our Torah convictions as long as we keep getting fed by the water, so to speak.
That's good. That's a great analogy. Shkoyach. Okay, now let's move on to pasuk number Daled. Daled, Hey, and Vav are basically Loichein Arashayim. It starts that not so will be. It won't be the same when it comes to the Rishayim, to the evildoers. So that the next three psukim are basically saying, we just said the positive, what will happen for someone that stays away from negativity and does good. Sur meira, stays away from bad. Asay toiv, does good. So that person, we talked about the blessing that they will get from that. But then it continues, not so is when it comes to the evildoers, meaning the opposite is true when it comes to the Rishayim. So we'll do pasuk Daled, and then Hey and Vav we'll do together, because Rashi says they're supposed to be together. So first of all, not so it's the wicked, because they're like chaff that are driven by the wind. What's chaff? So shaf is when, I only know this because of Hilchas Shabbos, because of the laws of Shabbos, that you're not allowed to winnow, which means that you take the stuff and you throw it into the wind, and the inside is heavier, so it falls, and the outside of it, let's say grain, the outside of it, the part that you're not going to use, is lighter, so the wind carries it away, and by throwing it into the wind, you're able to separate them. So it's actually one of the 9 Lamates Malachas, one of the 39 Malachas they're not allowed to do on Shabbos, and that's how I know about it. So, but that's what the pasuk is saying. saying that the Rasha is like that shaft, that outer layer of that you're going to throw in the garbage, so to speak, and it goes and it blows in the wind. But I saw also that there's a commentary that says that the Rasha becomes a nuisance to others. Even when he thinks he's trying to do good, he becomes a nuisance to others. How does he become a nuisance? He's like this garbage, so to speak. This psilus, this husk that's just floating in the wind. It gets in your face. It gets into your way. It's bothersome. And that's the way some of the commentaries explain this pasuk, that the Rasha is like this husks and shaft that comes flying into your face. So so they're not looked at as something positive, obviously. So I looked at something negative. So that's the Rishaim. So it's said by the tzaddik that he's like a tree, and by the Rasha he's like these husks or the shaft that gets blown around by the wind. And 5 and 6, al kain, therefore lo yakumu rishayim b'mishpat, that rishayim won't endure in judgment, b'chatayim and sinners ba'adas tzadikim won't be in the assembly of righteous. So the pasuk says, so Rashi first of all says that this is connected. This pasuk number 5 is connected to pasuk number 6. Why? Because it says that they won't be successful in judgment. Obviously, it's talking about after 120, and the sinners won't be between the righteous. This is talking about after 120. And that's the next pasuk, because Hashem knows the path of the righteous. I don't know who's righteous, and I don't know who's a Rasha. I treat everybody the same because I don't know. It's actually very well connected to the Sikha that we learned this morning, that Moshe Rabbeinu tells Hashem in this week's parasha, you know the evildoers. He's talking about Kairach, etc. But you know the evildoers. Deal with the evildoers. Don't deal with all the people at once. That's what we were talking this morning in the parasha class. But the same thing over here is that we're saying the same thing, that Hashem knows the path of the righteous, and He knows the path of the Rasha, which will disappear and disintegrate. Also Rashi says over here that when it says that the Rasha, the evil person, won't stand in judgment. We see many evil people that manage in judgment. So it's funny because when I was preparing this, I was thinking, and there's many stories that you don't have to give examples, but Harvey Weinstein is one of them. You could be a bad person for a long, long time and think that you're above the law. Or this other, I'm mentioning only Jewish names, but the Epstein is another one. You could think for many, many years you're above the law, but at some point the dam breaks and everybody comes forward. That's the way Rashi actually comments on this. He says that the Rasha won't stand in judgment because eventually once one person pushes forward against him, so to speak, comes to Bezdin, comes to court against him, it will open up the floodgates for everybody to feel comfortable to come up against them. And that's another meaning of the pasuk as well. And also that Hashem knows the path of the righteous and the path of the Rasha. There's other commentaries that say that after 120, you might come and say, what do you mean? I was brought up this way. I didn't know any better. I only knew negativity. I only knew bad things. And I couldn't change. And Hashem is going to show you the tzaddik, the righteous person, the guy who did the right thing, and say, look, you could have been more like this person who knew how to change, who knew how to do tshuva, who knew how to do positive things, good things, mitzvahs, helping one another, etc., all different types of positivity that you could have done. She'll show him examples, and that's why he kind of puts both of them back into the pasuk together. So again, this is chapter number 1 of Tehillim. As we mentioned in the beginning of the class, that this chapter, this psalm, is to inspire a person to study Torah and to avoid sin, and how the righteous are assured of their success and their good deeds, and the opposite for the Rishayim, for the evildoers. And that is chapter number 1, a beautiful chapter. I hope you enjoyed this chapter as much as I did.